please welcome the chair of the Democratic National Committee, Jamie Harrison.
Hello, everybody. We are at Howard University, the Mecca. Good morning, everybody, and thank you all for joining us to talk about a fundamental American right, to talk about the most sacred American right, and that is the right to vote. You know, last week the Supreme Court set back voting rights by over 50 years. The conservative majority upheld two Arizona laws. One made third-party ballot collection illegal, and the other tossed out votes cast in the wrong precinct. And the DNC fought both because they made voting harder for people of color. You know, the Voting Rights Act was passed to prevent this type of nonsense. Our leaders then knew that racist voter suppression tactics often appear neutral. But it's important to consider unequal impact on voters of color. And yet, a conservative 6-3 majority twisted themselves into knots to uphold both laws. In the words of Justice Kagan, the court simply put old poison into new bottles. My friends, we all know this is nothing new. It is the ghost of Jim Crow. The same Jim Crow that my family grew up under in South Carolina, that my grandparents had to suffer through. You know, my grandfather and I used to vote together. That was our little tradition. And it actually was the last thing that I did with my grandfather before he passed away in 2004. He was no stranger to voter suppression. He said people in South Carolina, the people in power, they didn't even see him as a whole person. He was more like an obstacle to them. He would always tell me, he said, Jamie, never let anybody tell you that you don't matter. And that's what this is all about, my friends. Whether it's Arizona or Georgia or Texas or any number of states, Republicans across the country would prefer your vote did not matter. They see you as an obstacle. They think if you work long hours, your vote shouldn't matter. They think if you need a bite to eat because your blood sugar drops, your vote shouldn't matter. They think if you need a sip of water because you're standing in a long line for hours, your vote shouldn't matter. My friends, they think our voices also shouldn't matter. But Democrats, our leaders are fighting to protect voters and to make sure that every voice is heard. Democrat, Republican, independent, black, white, straight, gay, it does not matter. If you are an American citizen, then your vote, your voice should matter. Throughout her career, our Vice President, Vice President Harris, she has proven that the people she represents, the people she serves, are always her top priority. She doesn't stand by and let injustice win. We saw her in those earrings. The clap back is fierce. My friends, this Vice President fights back. And under her leadership, that's exactly what the Democrats are going to do. And today, you are going to hear about how we plan to do it. Folks, President Biden said it himself. He said, this is going to take a hell of a lot of work. But Democrats are no stranger to tall tasks or long odds. We are the party of the New Deal. We are the party of the 1965 the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. We are the party of the Affordable Care Act. We are the party of the American Rescue Plan. In our greatest time of need as a nation, It was and it has always been the Democratic Party that has stood up to fight for all of America. While the Republicans obstruct, my friends, this D here stands for deliver. That's what the Democratic Party does. We deliver. And with the leadership of President Biden and Vice President Harris, we're ready to get to work, to defend, to secure, and to deliver voting rights for all Americans. Thank you all so much for being here today.
Please welcome Howard University Student Association President Kylie Burke.
Thank you all for being here today. It's been a while since I've attended a formal Howard University event in person, like a lot of the other students that are here today, and I couldn't be happier for the circumstances. But being away from Howard so long has made me think a lot about this old saying, distance makes the heart grow fonder. It's one of the many sayings I've begun to relate to a lot more throughout the pandemic. For Howard specifically, I feel like my time away from a physical campus full of students has actually helped me reaffirm something I already knew. There's something truly intangible about this university. It's where giants are raised, from young, quiet freshmen unsure of their purpose, and yet also where some giants learn how to fall, gracefully and always keen on getting back up. It's a community of eclectic students that somehow always find the right ways to push each other, academically, creatively, and even socially, always towards a purpose that's much bigger than ourselves. And of course, it's where our Vice President, Kamala Harris, started her own career of truth and service. And if you know anything about Howard, those 3 words aren't just 3 words. They're a motto, they're a lifestyle, a phrase that is incessantly repeated from the first day you're on campus, but not without reason. Truth and service is a compass for the students that come to this university. It's something that reaffirms for us that we will never forget or disregard the responsibility to be honest and the responsibility to help others in need. But VP Harris learned a lot of other lessons here at Howard as well, as she took on several leadership positions on campus. And I say this both lovingly and as a survivor of Howard campaign season myself. Howard teaches you a thing or two about grit, teaches you to remain focused, it teaches you to be persistent, regardless of the inevitable obstacles that will come in your way. And as you can imagine, all of this comes in handy when you're pioneering a path forward for women at the highest level of American politics, which is exactly what Vice President Kamala Harris has done through a lifetime of public service and many, many firsts. Growing up in the Bay Area of California, I was always proud to have a Black woman serving as my home senator, and my family was too. In fact, when I finally decided to come to Howard late in my senior year, my mom used to always say if I was gonna fly across the country to study politics in DC, I better find a way to work for then Senator Harris. I can say it now with a bit of a laugh and a smile, but at the time, I felt a lot of pressure. It seemed unobtainable and so far away from where I was. But like so many other Howard students, I came to realize there was a much bigger plan in place for me when I arrived, a plan that included receiving a Howard University Congressional Fellowship that placed me in her Senate office for my fall semester at my sophomore year. I learned so much during my fellowship, both instructionally but also through demonstration, and that is largely in part because of the precedent at the time Senator Harris was setting. She was then and continues to be now a shining example of excellence in leadership, an example that the future generations, the baby bison that will grow up to be HU 35, HU 45, they'll see that as a testament to not only the value of an HBCU education, but of a testament to the possibilities that come with it. And yet, admittedly, Howard is but one of many factors that went into molding Vice President Kamala Harris into the unapologetic advocate we've come to know. The one who fought for the truth in the Senate as a member of the Intelligence Committee, the one who fought to stand in her own truth during a national campaign, and the one we've invited here today to once again unapologetically advocate, but this time for one of the most quintessential components of our democracy, the right to vote. It's an absolute honor to be here today and to introduce the first female Vice President of the United States, but it is a greater honor to know, from her own words, that she will not be the last.
Yeah, we were hanging out backstage talking, and I'll tell you, Kylie, when I look at you and so many of our young leaders, I know our future is bright. I'm so proud of you, and you're right. Please sit, everybody. But you spoke the truth about Howard University, because that is absolutely right, and I think many of you know the first office I ever ran for was probably the most difficult campaign I've ever been in, and that was freshman class representative of what was then called the Liberal Arts Student Council. And so it is so good to be home at Howard University, and I will tell you what you all know. Howard University is a very important part of why I stand before you at this moment as the Vice President of the United States of America. And Jamie Harrison, thank you for your leadership. And on that point today, I am pleased to announce that the Democrats are making a $25 million investment to expand the I Will Vote campaign. This campaign is grounded in the firm belief that everyone's vote matters, that your vote matters. And we saw this in 2020. More Americans turned out to vote than ever before in the middle of a pandemic. America, you masked up. You mailed in your ballots. You did not let anything stop you from making your voice heard. And let's think about what happens when we vote. Let's look back at history. Howard teaches us to always remember our history. In 1964, Americans awakened by the Civil Rights Movement wanted the Voting Rights Act. They voted, and they got it. In 2008, millions of Americans were uninsured, underinsured, or were paying too much for health care insurance. Americans wanted affordable health care. They voted, and they got the Affordable Care Act. The same thing happened last year. In 2020, you called for a national vaccination plan. You voted, and now nearly 160 million Americans are vaccinated. You called for jobs. You voted, and now more than 3 million jobs have been created. You called for relief, badly needed, called for relief, and $1,400 checks have been sent out. $2.6 billion have gone to HBCUs like Howard University. And starting next week, because you voted, tens of millions of American families will get monthly checks for the expanded child tax credit. And I want to emphasize, because you voted, through that, we will lift half of America's children out of poverty because you voted. Because you voted. So think of our democracy as a call and response, and every election then as an opportunity for the American people to be heard. In 2020, you were heard, America. You were heard loud and clear. But there is another side to this story. So far this year, 17 state legislatures have enacted 28 new laws that will make it harder for Americans to vote. These bills, now, be clear about enacted, these bills have already become law. They are now on the books. And that's not to mention the nearly 400 bills that state legislatures are attempting right now to pass. You know what's going on in Texas right now. This all is designed, I believe, to make it harder for you to vote so that you don't vote. And let's talk about what exactly these laws will do. What will they actually do? Well, let's say in the last election you may have voted early because you work long hours. Well, these laws will cut early voting. Let's say your cousin voted by mail to avoid the long lines. Well, these laws will cut vote by mail. Say your coworker, say your friend next to you, friend, voted in person on Election Day and put on that sticker with pride. Well, these laws will make it difficult for folks who wait in line. These laws create obstacle upon obstacle. These laws make it harder for you to vote because they don't want you to vote. And so I will say again, your vote matters. Your voice matters. Your will matters. Your desire for yourself and your families matters. And regardless of who you are, where you live, what party you belong to, your vote matters. Your vote is your power. And so I say, don't let anybody ever take your power from you. Don't let anybody take your power from you, especially the power of your voice. We will not let anyone take away our power. And that's why we are all here together today. We're not going to let that happen. And so we need to fight back. In some states, Americans have successfully blocked some of the anti-voter bills from becoming law, and others are being challenged in court. In Congress, leaders are working to pass 2 bills into law that would protect and strengthen voting rights. And there is another important component of our work together, and that is mobilizing to ensure Americans vote in the elections coming up ahead. Now, I know that there are some folks out there who are saying, well, hold up. I just voted. I stood in that line like you asked me to last time. It was hot or it was cold. So why are you coming to me now, talking about this now? I just voted. And that's fair. That's a fair point. Yes, it is early. And we have never really started this early before. But folks, it is never too early to defend your rights. So with these new laws that have been passed or they're trying to pass, we have to start now to finish strong. And remember, this is not only about a national election. This is also about state and local elections. It's about who's going to be your sheriff or your mayor or your school board member. The folks who get elected and then make decisions that impact your everyday life. So, America this year, next year, and every election year, the future of our nation is decided by us. You, the people. And therefore, the people must be able, without hindrance, without obstacle, certainly without insurmountable obstacle, to decide our country's future, to determine your future, the future of your children, the future of our nation. And therein lies the power of your vote. With this $25 million, the Democrats are investing in the tools and technology to register voters, to educate voters, to turn out voters, to protect voters. People say, what's the strategy? Well, I just outlined it. We are going to assemble the largest voter protection team we have ever had to ensure that all Americans can vote and have your vote counted in a fair and transparent process. And again, I want to make clear that this is about all voters. It's about all voters. This is not about Democrats or Republicans. This is about Americans. Let's be clear about that. And who is prepared right now to stand up for what we say are some of our fundamental values, some of the fundamental pillars to a democracy, to our democracy. That's what this is about. So we want to help you vote. And we want to help to make sure your vote is counted. And that is because our democracy is strongest when everyone participates, and it is weaker. It is weaker. Our democracy as a nation is weaker when people are left out. So this is the fight. This is the fight of our lifetime. This is the fight of our lifetime. We all stand on the shoulders of giants. We will always remember our history. We also understand their legacy and that we are a part of that. And in that way, there is a continuum. So I say, in that context, this is the fight of our nation's lifetime. And we need your help. If you are not registered to vote, register. If you are registered, make sure your friends and family are registered. And I'm going to give you a website. You know, I had to come with a website. Go to iwillvote.com, iwillvote.com, and go there to make sure you are registered. And visit there to get all the information you need about how to get folks involved, how you can become involved. And with that, let me end where I began. America, we know what our nation is made of. In 2020, you showed the world what our nation is made of. In the midst of a global crisis, let's remember that. In the midst of a global crisis, more Americans voted than ever before. That's important. Look back on moments of crisis, moments of suffering, as a measure of your strength, and what did you do in those circumstances? And know we are strong in a moment of crisis. People voted in numbers like never before. And that is a demonstration, is empirical evidence of the strength of our democracy and the determination of our people. And I do believe we will do that again. So I'll say it one more time. Our vote matters. Your voice matters. And we are going to fight to make sure that all the people's voices are heard. So thank you all again, and let's get to work. Thank you.